Hello everybody, welcome back. And in last week's video, we had looked about the Passover history and we started our recap about the Passover and how it started and where it started from. We looked from the Joseph period and we read Exodus 12th chapter to understand about this. And then we finished off with a point about the 10th plague. But this is the plague where the Passover takes place. And we're going to read that now, which is taking place in Exodus 11th chapter 4th verse to 7th verse, so Exodus 11 chapter 4 to 7th verse, where it clearly explains about what will happen in the 10th plague. So let's read it now. So Exodus 11th chapter 4 to 7th verse. Okay, here we go. So it says, So Moses said, Thus says the Lord, about the midnight I will go out of the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of the Pharaoh who sits on the throne to even the firstborn of a slave girl who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle. There shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there has never been, nor will ever will be again. But no dog shall growl against any of the beasts of Israel, either man or beast, that you may know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. So here we can see how he's making a distinction between Egypt and Israel. So God has clearly told Moses now about what's going to happen in the 10th plague. And we can see from the domestic animals and the slave girls till the Pharaoh's first son, all of the firstborns will die in this 10th plague. So this will make the, let's say, the Israelites free from the Egyptians. But Israelites are also living in Egypt. And God clearly says everyone in Egypt shall die. So he gave the instructions for the Israelites to be safe clearly in Exodus 12th chapter, which we looked about last week, in 51 verses, clearly top to bottom, crystal clear about what they should do and what should they do not, just so they can survive. Okay, so now we can read a verse in Exodus 12:2. But we can also read a verse in Exodus 13:4, which is the Aviv month, which talks about, which is also called as the Nisan month. And we can clearly understand about this in the Esther book, where it says about this the Nisan month, which it takes place in. We can read in Esther 3rd chapter 7th verse, and we can read about this now. Esther 3rd chapter. So Esther, 3rd chapter, 7th verse. It says, in the first month, which is the month of Nisan, is the 12th year of King Ahasuerus. Okay, so it says here clearly that this is the month of Nisan, which is taking place. So now we can go to more about the instructions, what God had told the Israelites that they must do. So God tells them they should find a lamb or goat, which should not be without blemish, or should be healthy, and it should be 1 year old. And it should be on the 10th day, it should be found. On the 14th day, it must be given for sacrifice. And it must be taken place in between the 2 evenings. So what I mean by the 2 evenings is basically the Israelites have this lunar way of calculation of days. So basically the day starts at 6 p.m. evening. So in between the 2 evenings means the lesser evening and the greater evening. So in between those 2 evenings is 3 p.m. So in this point they must slaughter the lamb or use the lamb as a sacrifice on this date. So this is what they must do. So in between the 2 evenings. So we've done much more detail about this in Arrow 27 in the last year's Passover topic. So if you want to understand more about this 2 evenings point, you can go read that over there. And we also discussed that this last year, yeah? And they also must put on the doorsteps, on the doors, they must have on the doorsteps, on the sides, they must have the blood of the lamb, and on the top, they must have blood on the door as well, of the lamb that they have used for sacrifice. And now we can read a verse in Exodus 12, chapter 8 to 13. So we're going to read a few verses now. So let's read that. So Exodus 12, 12, 8 to 3. 8 to 13, sorry. So here it says, they shall eat the flesh that night, roasted on fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, and they shall eat it. So they're telling what they should do on the Nisan 14. And they do not eat any of the raw or boiled in water. So they should not eat it in boiled in water. But roast its head and with its legs and its inner parts. And you shall let none of it remain until the morning. So they shall not leave any of it till the morning. Anything that remains in the morning you shall burn. In this manner you shall eat it. With your belt fastened, so your belt fastened, and your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, you shall eat it in haste, so very slowly. Haste. Oh wait, I've lost it now. Oh, there we go. It is the Lord's Passover, for I will pass through the lands of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborns in the land of Egypt, but man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for your houses. So those will be the signs. So, and when I see the blood, I will pass over your house. So, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. So if the sign is the blood on both doorsteps, if this is on your doorstep, I will pass over your house. So this is what I was telling about. This is where in the 10th plague, the Passover is taking place, because God will pass over your house if you have done all the steps to make God pass over your house so you survive and your firstborn is not loosened. So all of these instructions and commands have been clearly told to them how they should perform them and protect their firstborns from being saved. And the process for this is a lot of process, because it even teaches them they should eat, because it said they should eat in haste. That's how they should eat, very slowly. So it clearly says how they should be. So now we can clearly understand how the Passover had taken place. They had to follow all those steps God had told them what they should do, and only if they've done this, the death angel will pass over their house. So that's all for this week. So now let's see a recap of what we looked at. So first we looked about the first verse, about Exodus 11 chapter 4th verse, where it talks about what will happen in the 10th plague, and this is told to Moses. And then we see about that everyone in Egypt's firstborn will die, from the slave girls to cattle, till the firstborn of the Pharaoh. And then we see how was the Israelites going to survive, since God says clearly throughout Egypt. So then we see that God clearly narrates this in 51 verses in Exodus 12th chapter, what they should do. Then we see about where it says about the Nisan month and where it says this is the month. So we looked in Esther 3rd chapter 7th verse. Then what we looked about how the lamb should be, or the goat, when it's eaten. So it should be without blemish, and they should get it on the 10th and must have it on the 14th, or sacrificed it. And then we looked about the 2 evenings, how it should be in the greater and the lesser evening. In between the 3 p.m. point is where it should be sacrificed. And then finally we looked about all the process about what they should eat and how they should eat it. And then we understood how God will pass over the house of yours if the sign of the blood on your 2 sides of the doors and on the top is there. And if this is happening, you will be saved, and your firstborns will be saved. So that's all for today. See you next time. Bye.